and welcome! This is a user-requested video by Jimmy Shaw. Now Jimmy asks,
thanks for your previous taco printout video, is there any chance you can do some more on the working time directive like spread overs, etc? Only been doing trucking 6 months and went straight to class 1 tankers. Any help would be appreciated. Safe driving, mate.
when you say spread overs, that sounds more like to do with driving hours regs and not really working time directive. I did ask you, but you never got back to me, so we'll just stick with working time directive. So here we go. WTD. The Working Time Directive. Now it covers numerous things such as 20 days paid leave a year, 24 hours off a week minimum, and 11 hours of rest a day. These are nice simple rules, they're sort of beyond your control, they just happen. And then again, with the 24 and 11 hours you've also got driver's hours regs, which supersedes it and gives you some other options to play with there as well. Moving on, we've got a few more rules here. These ones you sort of have to pay attention to, but unless you're an agency, self-employed, or a tramper driver, it's largely going to be taken care of for you by the company that you work for. Now these rules are you can only work a maximum of 60 hours in a week. Work being defined as your duty time minus any breaks or POA that you have. And a week being a fixed period of midnight on Monday till 23:59 on a Sunday. If, like me, you do night shifts and you have a night shift that runs from a Sunday into a Monday, then this is where it can get a little bit complicated and can catch you out, or you can use it to your advantage, as soon as the clock ticks midnight, all your hours get cut off and one bit falls into one week and the other half falls into the other week. So that's something you have to be a little bit careful about on that one. Next, even though you can work a maximum of 60 hours in a week, you have to average just 48 over a 17 or 26 week reference period. The default is 17 weeks, but under a workforce agreement that's between the company and the employees, it can be extended to 26 weeks. I don't know any company that I've ever worked for that uses the 17 weeks. Everyone uses 26 because it just makes the most sense. Lastly, you can only work 10 hours maximum if working at night. Night being defined as midnight till 4 AM or 11 till 6 depending on where you read it from. As far as I'm aware, it's the first one, midnight till 4. Again, a workforce agreement can remove that limit and then you can do a bog standard 13-15 hour day if you want. Again, I don't know a company that doesn't do that. Every company that I've worked for removes that 10-hour limit and then you can work straight through. Pay attention, because this is where it gets harder. In practice, there are 4 simple rules. After 6 hours, you need a 30-minute break. After 9 hours, you need a 45-minute break. These breaks can be split into periods of 15 minutes each, and you can't work continuously for more than 6 hours. And whilst that sounds simple, much like the proverbial goalposts on wheels, these move about quite a lot. These rules are quite flexible and dynamic. They allow a lot of room for interpretation and you can do a lot of different things to remain legal. But it can be essentially broken down into 2 easy-ish chunks to understand. First of all, you've got fixed hours, a break that you have to have after 6, a break that you have to have after 9 hours. And then you've got this dynamic rolling block of 6 hours, and that clock always starts once you finish a break until you start your next one. So you've got fixed hours and you've got rolling hours. There are, however, just some small little stipulations here and there and some clarifications that I will make first. The first bit is, when I say 30 minutes and a 45-minute break, I don't mean 30 plus 45. It's a 30-minute rising to a 45 minutes. So you have to take 30 minutes after 6 hours and then a little 15-minute break extra to get it up to 45 after 9 hours. Some other stipulations that are in the rules is that a 15-minute break must be completed before 6 hours and 30 minutes must be completed before 9 hours. Finally, you have to complete that 45-minute break before the end of your shift. It cannot be added onto a daily or weekly rest. It has to be its own independent block of break, separate from everything else. Using what we've learnt, we will look at various different ways in which you can meet your obligations. So if I draw up some bars here, this is what your fixed hours will look like. You've got your 0 to 6 hours, your 6 to 9 hours, and then 9 to whatever you do to the end of your break or end of your shift even. Under the working time directive, to meet the bare legal minimums to satisfy the law, you need to have a 15-minute break just before 6 hours. You need to obviously complete half an hour before 9 hours, so you have another 15-minute there. And then before the end of your shift, you just need to take another 15 minutes. This is the absolute minimum required under the working time directive. In reality, it's very, very unlikely. This next example, we're going to take the 15-minute break, but we're going to take it before the 3-hour mark. So we don't really have to worry about the fixed hours anymore. We have to worry about the rolling block of 6 hours. So as you can see, the second break is taken quite early on after the 6-hour mark, because we would have gone over our 6 hours if we'd taken it all the way up to 9 hours. Again, taking the third break quite early on, again to reduce any continuous work to less than 6 hours. But again, that is essentially the same as the top one. We've just taken all the breaks a little bit earlier. The third example here, this takes driver's hours regs into consideration as well, because obviously you can only split your break into a 15 and 30-minute period. So we've done 6 hours here, had a 15-minute. That satisfies the first part of the working time directive. You're then getting close to your 9 hours. You need to take another break. Well, you might as well take the 30-minute as well. That clears your driver's hours, and then you're good to go until the end of your shift. This fourth example, again, we've taken the first break within the first 3 hours, and it's a 15-minute one. We've therefore got to take our second break quite early on. Again, to satisfy driver's hours regs as well, we might as well take half an hour. Following on, that'd obviously leave us more than our 6-hour continuous on the rolling side of things. So we just need to take another little 15-minute break to cut those up into 2 periods of less than 6 hours. So on that example, we've taken an hour's break in total. We only really needed to take 45 minutes for the working time directive, but because we've got a period there that's going to be more than 6 hours, you just need to split it up with another 15-minute break. Moving on to this next example, you don't always have to split your breaks into 15-minute periods if you want to. We've taken a 30-minute here, just nearing the 6-hour mark. So that's satisfied the first 2 parts of the rule. We can go straight through towards the end. And then there's a second break there of half an hour. It only needed to be 15 minutes for working time directive, but if you're going to take driver's hours into account, then you take the half an hour obviously to clear your driver's hours as well. And then we're good straight through to the end of our shift. On this next example, we're assuming that we're doing some long distance driving, so you've done your 4.5 hours of driving, you therefore need to take a 45-minute break to clear your driver's hours. That immediately then takes care of the working time directive, so you're good to go straight on through. Obviously, you can't work more than 6 hours because of our rolling period of 6 hours, so we take another little 15-minute break there just to split everything up, and you're good to go. This next example, we're going to assume that we're a long distance European driver or something. We're just driving all day, doing not much else. So we've driven 4.5 hours, we've had our 45-minute break, clears the working time directive, but we're going to drive on for another 4.5 hours. Again, driver's hours regs takes precedence here, so we take a 45-minute break again, and then you've got your nice little 1 hour left till the end of the day, and then you clock off, you're done, easy as. Working time directive almost doesn't matter when it's that sort of driving that you're doing, because driver's hours regs will just overrule everything pretty much. So this particular example almost never happens. I think I've managed to do it twice in 7 years. But if you work less than 6 hours, obviously working time directive doesn't. So on this particular example, we've worked less than 6 hours under working time directives. It doesn't say you have to have any breaks for less than 6 hours, so you can work from the start of your shift to the very end, straight through, then you clock off, daily, weekly rest, whatever you need. It can happen, it almost never does. I think I've managed to do this about twice in 7 years. And finally, if you're working up to 9 hours, but not more than that, working time directive says you need to have half an hour break. You can do that however you want. As in this example, you've got either a 30-minute break at the very start, or you can split it into 2 periods of 15 minutes. Either way, it doesn't matter. Obviously, if you're going to run out of driver's hours, that overrules everything. But up to 9 hours, you only need 30 minutes of break. Then you clock off. End of the day, off you go. Easy as.